All right, Lori, I'll pass it over to you.
Thank you. Hello, welcome everyone to our Transfer Tuesday UH Mānoa Transfer Workshop Series. I just want to quickly introduce the three people at Leeward and at UH Mānoa who set up these workshops. One is Amy McKee. She's the KAE counselor at UH Mnoa, assigned to Leeward Community College. Jordan Luton, who's our Leeward Community College online counselor, and I'm Laurie Labarrios, and we welcome you to today's session. So today's agenda will run from about 12 to 1:15, and we'll start with ethnic studies. And we do have Dr. Rod Labrador here. He's an associate professor and also academic advisor from UH Mānoa.
And also joining us today, we have the Hawaii Nui Akea School of Hawaiian Knowledge. We have Lefua Nishimura, who is the academic advisor for Hawaiian Studies. Dr. Konia Freitas, who is a faculty member at Hawaii Nui Akea and is also the former director and heads the recruitment team. We have Kainehe Chunlum, who is the Hawaiian language advisor. And we also have students Tehani and Leimana joining us today. So before we get started with their presentations, we just want to share with folks a little bit more about UH Mānoa. So the University of Hawaii at Manoa was founded in 1907 and is considered a land, sea, space, and sun grant institution. We offer over 100 undergraduate majors for students to choose from, as well as many graduate and professional degrees, including law, medicine, business, social work, education, and engineering. We are the flagship campus in the University of Hawaii system, a Research One institution, NCAA Division I school, and we strive towards being a native Hawaiian place of learning. If you are thinking of transferring to UH Mānoa within the next 1 to 2 years, we'd love for you to consider joining the KAE Program. The KAE Program is a partnership between UH Mānoa and the community colleges, and we help students transfer smoothly and efficiently to Manoa by providing proactive academic advising, waiving the application fee, and giving students the ability to register early when they do transfer to Manoa. To join the program, you just need to have at least 24 transferable credits, a 2.0 GPA, and have at least one more semester remaining at your community college. We are signing up students right now who plan to transfer for fall 2021. So please let me know in the chat if you're interested in joining the program. All right, and without further ado, we'll turn it over to our first speaker, Dr. Rod Labrador. Oh, Dr. Labrador, I think you're on mute still.
Okay, let's try again. I should know how to do this. We've been teaching this way for several months now. And so, and I think like Jordan, I've been teaching online classes for several years now. So I shouldn't be making a rookie mistake like that. But anyways, how's everybody doing? I hope everyone's doing well and being safe. My name is Rod Labrador. I'm a professor in the Ethnic Studies Department, and as Lori and Amy mentioned, I'm also I serve as academic advisor for my department. I'm like a lot of students who, I think we're focusing primarily at LCC, right? We've had a lot of students from LCC and come to my department, and like a lot of the students who've come from LCC from our department, I was actually born in the Philippines, so I'm an immigrant. I came to the United States. My family left the United States when I was in elementary school, early elementary school. English is not my native language, and I spent the early part of my early elementary school in English as a second language class and learning how to speak English. Even, you know, a lot of students are always amazed at or they wonder how I get to talk the way that I talk, given that this is not my first language. but maybe that says something about what ESL is designed to do and what it means for our heritage languages and our native languages. But that's something that you would talk about in ethnic studies. Also, like many of the students that are at LCC and these other students, I'm a first generation college student, which means that neither of my parents went off to college. So it's me and my brother who were the first in my family to go to college. And so a lot of times I bring up these kind of biographical things with our students just to get a sense of who we are as faculty. So it's not like we're just these folks who are sitting in our classes and stuff, but we have experiences that are very similar to a lot of the students that we work with, and especially with the students who are transferring over from our community colleges. One of the things that students often ask me when I talk about our major, talk about our department is, what is ethnic studies? It's not ethics, it's not these other things. For a lot of students, they don't know what ethnic studies is. They've never heard of ethnic studies. Although, given the recent kind of racial reckoning that we have been dealing with on the continent, here in the islands, the discussions that we've been having about racial justice, ethnic studies has been something that's at the forefront when it comes to education, whether we're talking about K through 12 or we're talking about the universities, colleges and universities. And folks have been looking to ethnic studies as a way to think through some of the racial justice work that folks are doing, looking at the social justice work, and looking at economic justice, all of these different kinds of things, but looking at how we think about our history. How did we get to where we are at when we're looking at issues around Black Lives Matter movement, to the struggles for Indigenous rights, to the struggles for workers and immigrants, all of these different kinds of things. And so for us, for ethnic studies has actually been around at the university for a long time. We are celebrating our 50th anniversary this year at the university. One of the things that I like to tell the students is that ethnic studies is something, even though you might not think that this is something that you can study, but it is something that we're always kind of engaged in, because ethnic studies is both socially and politically relevant. It's talking about things that are going on in our lives. And it's looking at these different kinds of intersections, as I mentioned before, looking at questions around race, ethnicity, indigeneity, culture, class, migration, all of these different things. And for us here at Mānoa, our focus has been looking at Hawaii, looking at the continental United States, but also now looking at the broader Oceania, right? So we're looking at what does it mean for us to live here in this island community, centering the experiences of Indigenous folks here, as well as connecting to what's going on the continent, as well as to the broader geographical region. For ethnic studies, there are a bunch of different focuses that we have in our department. We look at things like migration. So like what I teach, I focus on Filipinos in diaspora. You have other folks who are teaching in Asian American studies. You have folks who are looking at the experiences of Black folks. So looking at a whole bunch of different things, community engagement, looking at these broader oceanic connections. We have a whole bunch of classes looking at things like ethnic conflict, to economic change, to issues around indigeneity, to sustainability. We're part of our college's cluster on sustainability. And so we have looking at issues around the environment. And as our name suggests, we're also looking at things like identity, like ethnic identity, looking at class, looking at political economy. There are a couple of different programs that are part of ethnic studies. So one of them is the Center for Oral History. I don't know if I'll share this later on, but we have, through our different social media feeds, we've been kind of distributing information about what the Center for Oral History has been doing. The center is part of our department again. It was somewhere else before, and it came back recently to our department. But for the Center for Oral History, as the slide says, that part of what we're doing with the Center for Oral History is documenting our histories, but looking at the past, but also looking at how the past can inform what is going on in our present, but also help us to imagine these different possible futures, right? And so if students are interested in looking at how do you do oral history, how do you do, are you interpreting these documents from the past? This is something that you can do as part of ethnic studies. One of the other things is the North Shore Field School. The next two slides are partnerships that we have. A couple of us in the department are actually trained in anthropology. And so this North Shore Field School is really looking at how to do ethnography, how to do things like, again, like documentation, preservation, looking at the communities on the North Shore, looking at Wahiwa, Haleiwa, these other places, Waialua, looking at the histories of these different places, really kind of applying this Aina-based pedagogy to looking at this community. And again, just like with the Center for Oral History, looking at the past, making connections to our present, but also looking forward to what these things can tell us about what we can be doing going forward, or how can we imagine a better future, and how can we imagine a more just, a more equal, a more inclusive future for all of us. One of the programs that a lot of our students are involved with is the Nahoku Hawaiian Leadership Program. And this is alternates between us and political science. It's part of the College of Social Sciences. And really it's this preparation that we have for our students to be able to kind of apply what they've learned in our classrooms, because this is an important part of ethnic studies. Ethnic studies, as I mentioned before, is about social justice, but it's also applying those things that we learn in our classrooms to our communities. And this is one of the ways that our students get involved, because then they are able to address these issues like the sacred site protection, right, restoration, looking at issues around Native Hawaiian sovereignty, right, all of these different kinds of things. And so these things, as I was mentioning before, the kind of connecting our communities. Another important part of what makes ethnic studies is this idea of intersectionality, so that we're looking at things, whether it's someone like me who is Filipino, but looking at how our struggles of my peoples coming from the Philippines, right, Filipinos in diaspora, how are these things connected to where we're at now in Hawaii? How are we connected via colonization? How are we connected through militarization? How are we connected through these broader political economy, right? And so part of what we're trying to encourage our students to do is to think about how all of these struggles are tied together, how these ideas can help us understand our past, how have they shaped our everyday now into our present, but then how can it help us imagine a better future for all of us? Students also ask me, well, what can we do? What do you have to offer? We have scholarships that are specific to our department, and I just wanted to highlight two different opportunities that you can have in our department. One is the Roland Katani Endowment Fund student scholarship that we give out to our students, and it's basically for students to be able to kind of carry out either a research project or community engagement kind of project or creative project or something that we can help support our students. Usually serves as kind of some capstone project as you're ending your college career at Mānoa. And then another program that we have that we offer through our department, and maybe this will be more appropriate when we can travel, but we have a fellowship, a partnership with the Smithsonian in Washington, D.C. And so we usually send one student, sometimes two, to Washington, D.C. to work with Asian Pacific American Center. And they're there for the semester, usually in the fall semester. You apply in the spring, you go in the fall, and you have a stipend, and you get to live in Washington, D.C. We've had students who've gone to that program actually after they graduate. They decide it was wonderful. They stay there, or they stay on the East Coast. But it's an opportunity for students to be able to kind of apply the things that they're learning in our classroom in a different setting, right? And also at one of these institutions in Washington, D.C. that looks really good for your resume. And so, but in addition to that, I think it's also the kind of both the development, personal development, as well as kind of professional development that you're getting as part of these opportunities. One of the new things that we have in our department is we actually have a combined bachelor's and master's program, and there are two different pathways. We have this innovative partnership with the College of Education. As I've been the academic advisor for our department for several years now, and one of the things that students had been asking us was first, why don't we have a graduate program in ethnic studies? And I always say, well, ask the administration. And then second, the answer to that was, well, we're going to actually find opportunities for our students to be able to still stay here in Hawaii while pursuing a graduate program that allows them to apply the things that they've learned in our classes. And so we have this partnership with Educational Administration and Educational Foundation so that you can get a your MED, your bachelor's in 4 years, and then you have 1 year where it's combined, and so that you'll be able to finish your master's in 5 years. And so we actually have a student right now. We have our first cohort this year. One student is actually from one of the our local community colleges. And so what that student is doing is, instead of a 4+1 or 3+2, that student's doing a 2+2+1. And so as that student transferred over, if any students are interested in that, please get a hold of me. If you're interested in careers in education, it doesn't necessarily have to be that you want to be a teacher, but if you want to be like Lehua or Kunia or Kainehe or folks who are working at the university or Jordan, you can get your degrees in educational administration or foundations and do the kind of work that is going to be supporting students at the colleges and universities. Okay, other things students ask me is, well, if I join ethnic studies, what is it that we can do? As I've mentioned before, one of the things that ethnic studies really kind of emphasizes is that we want you to be able to apply the things that you've learned in our classes to whatever it is that you're doing, whatever it is that you're passionate about. And one of the things that we've been having more recently with our students, so they're very engaged politically, they're very active in the community, and we've been having students who are also very creative, that they're artists. And so I'm going to show you two quick clips of what you can do while you're in ethnic studies.
E ho ana o luna e pi'i ana o lalo e hui ana na moku e ku ana kapaia. E ho ana o luna e pi'i ana o lalo. Tomaka naka hui pu and hume yamalo. Huli kalima I lalo. Makau kau ke kipi kalo. Pai pai ho na papo haku. Inui ka vai ava straight out your apu. And don't forget to keep your aloha kapu. Na kane na wahine a me na mahu. Ku kia imauna.
Okay, so that was Law. And here's another student.
They think we won't survive, like we haven't overcome genocide 3 times. They try to steal our minds, but ALA and still our rise. We lost the whole world, and yet we're still here. The tip of the pen is the tip of the spear, taking up the fight, a brain against brain. Our battleground change our kapuna the same. Our iki they fear, our weapons of war, so I'll fight for this island until I'm a corpse. And then when I die, my old winner will fly off my shoulders. They stand, so they reach for new heights.
So these students are actually part of our department, but we worked with them to record their creativity, to record the things that they were participating in. And so this is something that you can do in ethnic studies. The third person that's listed on this slide is Punahele, who's actually a Nahoku Award winner. And so if you want to see the other videos, they're up on YouTube, and there's the QR code if you're interested in looking at that. And so part of the idea for the what can I do with ethnic studies And why I was wanting to show that is that that's the stuff that you can do while you are with us. You can pursue research, you can pursue, if you are a creative, you can pursue that. If you are involved, you're interested in being more involved in your community, we also really kind of support that kind of work as well. So that, again, as I keep saying, ethnic studies is really intent on your learning stuff in the classroom, but we also want you to operationalize that. We want you to be able to kind of take what you've learning in our classroom and apply it to your community, to whatever work that you're doing. And so the things that students, that they learn from us, the things that they apply it to, it's a whole range of stuff. And the next couple of slides is basically, what can I do with an ethnic studies major? This is a question. I have students who, when we were still able to see each other face to face, when they would come to my office and they're just kind of interested, they've seen videos that we post up and students are interested, or they've taken a class and they come up to me and ask, well, what can I do with an ethnic studies major? I don't really know what that is. And what I often tell them is you can do a whole bunch of things with ethnic studies. What ethnic studies is really designed to do is provide you with this critical lens to look at all of these range of ideas. But that also allows you to be able to kind of create your own path as to where you want to go with that. So you can go into education, you can go into social services, you can go into law. A lot of our majors go into these other kinds of careers, like in organizing, doing things. I think one of our students on this webinar wants to do communications or communicology. That's something that our students in our department go on to do as well. A lot of our students go on to do community-based work doing stuff with nonprofits. And I think the next slide. But this is also kind of reflective of the kind of work that some of our recent grads have done. So you have one of our graduates going on. He's a professor at NYU now, the book up there that he has. We have, I mentioned earlier, we have a Nahoku award-winning musician, but we also have an Emmy award-winning filmmaker who is the director for Family Ingredients, Tai Sanga. We have folks who are working for local organizations, local unions. We have folks who are working for local community organizations like the Next Step Homeless Shelter. We have folks that are involved, as I mentioned, in law. We have majors who are working as part of the state legislature. And then we also have students, this was my segue to Lehua et al. We have students who are also been doing work in nonprofit organizations, particularly Native Hawaiian organizations as well. Okay, but the main thing that I usually tell students is that ethnic studies allows you to find your passion. It allows you to find what is important to you. And the whole idea for this slide is really to get you to think about what is important, what are you passionate about? And ethnic studies will help you come up with what are you going to do while you're at school, but also what is it that you're going to be doing in the future. The major, I kept this last, and I kept this as kind of wanting to just kind of gloss over it, because I think the part for our students, and particularly for students who are transferring to us, the easy thing to think about ethnic studies is that it's really simple to get your degree in ethnic studies, even if you're transferring over from a community college, because we only have 30 units, right, or 30 credits. And so you basically are taking 10 classes in a 2-year time. We've had students who can complete it in 3 semesters, right? And so that's something, the thing I just want to kind of highlight is that it's oftentimes we have students who are transferring over from the community colleges who have a hard time getting into classes and things. That's generally not been a problem for us in terms of making sure that our students get the classes that they need, that they're able to graduate on time, and that we also provide them with the support so that they are able to whether they want to go on to graduate school or professional school, or they want to go on to the workforce, we're able to support them in a meaningful way. We also offer a certificate in our program, and that's, I think, only 5 classes. So if you want a certificate in ethnic studies, we have students who are majoring or double majoring in other things, Hawaiian studies, poli-sci, anthropology, or we have students in business and other seemingly not necessarily like where you think it's an automatic kind of partnership, but we have students in these other majors who are getting certificates in ethnic studies as well. And that, just like our major, is we try to make it as simple and easy as possible for you to be able to come to our campus and then to be able to successfully and efficiently complete your degree. And this is the last thing. We are on social media, so you can follow us on Instagram, on Twitter, on Facebook, and I was kind of joking about the TikTok. Although we're trying to get some of our students to get involved and to do a TikTok thing. The last thing I forgot to put up there is that we do have a student organization that we're part of. That's part of our departments, the Ethnic Studies Student Association. They're also up on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook as well. They're independent of us, but they work really closely with our department, and they do a whole bunch of different things in terms of trying to get students more involved on campus, trying to make sure that there's a presence on campus, as well as, I mean, the other part is their social aspect of it. But yeah, if you have any questions, that's the end of my presentation, but I can address any questions if there's anything.
Mahalo for that beautiful presentation. I loved hearing the students' poetry and songs, and just, you know, the experiences of students in the program. I didn't know that there was, sorry, I'm having audio issues today. I didn't know that there were such award-winning alumni from the Ethnic Studies program.
Yes,
Yeah.
there's actually a bunch of them. But I just wanted to highlight the 2, especially because to a certain extent, those are kinds of careers and pathways that most folks don't think about. But I think, you know, it's in terms of the kinds of things that we teach in our classrooms, the kinds of opportunities that are available, those are very viable kinds of things to do after you're done with our program.
Rod? I did have a question a student brought up. She's interested in the certificate when she gets to Manoa, and she was just wondering if there are like clusters of classes you could choose from, like a specialty area. She's thinking, when she thought of ethnic studies, she thought it was ethnicity. You know how you're saying, just kind of debunking some of the myths about ethnic studies, but it's not just about ethnicity. There's so much more. But she was wondering if there's a cluster of classes she can choose from, you know, for those 5 classes.
Oh, totally. We actually have them where they're kind of, we have 3 main categories, but we're in the process of kind of creating more clusters so that there are students where they just take classes with me if they want to do like Filipino studies stuff. I choose like 5 different Filipino studies classes, and so those are your classes that you could take. But there are students who are interested in popular culture stuff, so you can do that. There are students that are interested in the political economy, so a lot of stuff like on workers' rights, labor, you can do that. There are students who are interested in issues around indigeneity. We have Viviana McGregor, Kavika Tengan, who teaches in our department. And so you could do that kind of work. Like I said earlier too, we have folks who do stuff on sustainability. We have African American studies specialist. And so there's a whole different set of things that you can do. One of the things that's looking at that students have been doing recently, because of the videos that I showed, there's been an increased interest in popular culture stuff. So I teach a class on hip hop. And so That seems to be popular with students, and I make them listen to a lot of Hawaii hip hop, and students don't necessarily know that it's out there, but you know, getting them familiar with stuff. Looks like a student is interested in oral history.
Yeah.
Yes, oral history, that's a big part of what we are doing. We're probably we're working towards a graduate certificate in oral history as well. That's one of the areas of focus that students have been really kind of interested in. We just had a recent graduate go to one of the Ivy Leagues doing oral history, pursuing a graduate degree in oral history. And so, yeah, that's something in line with like our North Shore Field School. There's a lot of things in terms of documentation, in terms of research, but also in terms of just like community engagement.
Thank you. If there are any questions for Dr. Labrador, feel free to put them in the chat. But I have one question while folks are thinking. Are there any courses that you would recommend students work on at the community colleges before they transfer to Manoa if they're interested in ethnic studies?
Yep. At the community, depending on which campus you're on, I think there are several that have the Intro to Ethnic Studies, ES 101, the Introduction to Ethnic Studies. But that means though you won't get to take the class with me. I usually teach that. But the courses we've been working with some of the other colleges to offer more courses in ethnic studies. At Leeward, I've been working with folks there for their Filipino Studies certificate. And so that's something folks there in Maui, I mean, we're actually trying to do something when it comes, and sorry, this is my area of specialization, I guess, but we've been trying to work with the community colleges to do, we're sampling, I'll use the hip hop language, we're sampling from Hawaiian studies to do a Filipino studies ASC.
Nice. Ooh, I think that'll be very popular once that gets off the ground.
Yeah. That would be, yeah. So right now it's, I think it's just at LCC, and next I think it will be at Maui.
Very cool. Okay. Any other questions from like Jordan or Lori?
No. And if things do come up, maybe people can put in the chat. And I think Rod will just kind of be around until 1:15. Okay. So we can go ahead and transition at this point. Okay, so I'll go ahead and introduce the Hawaiian Studies Department.
All right. And for folks joining us and watching this later, please check out our next Transfer Tuesday webinar. It's going to be December 1st with the Honors Program and Pre-Health Pre-Law Advising Center. And if folks want to stay on the chat, stay around and chat, feel free to do so.
Thank you. Have a good day, everyone. Thank you.
Bye, Lori. Thanks, Amy.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you.